Myron, let me bring you back in, because yesterday when you were getting into it with me about what you perceive to be censorship, you said, why the fuck are you calling for censorship when you have a show called Uncensored? The hypocrisy is incredible. But I was calling for a censorship of blatant, threatening violence in the language, abuse of Jewish people and of women, including trying to market a T-shirt based around an incident of criminal domestic abuse. Surely you would agree with that censorship, wouldn't you?
No, I don't believe in censorship. I think, context matters, and it's very obvious that, he's doing this as a marketing plug. I mean, look, we're talking about it right now, so he's done a fantastic job. He had a commercial with the Super Bowl. He's the talk of the town right now. He's basically stolen the attention from Kendrick Lamar. Some people here are trying to say that Kendrick is more relevant than Kanye when it comes to hip-hop, but he's stolen the attention how? From really smart marketing. Now, with that said, I don't think anyone's ability to speak should ever be censored. Now, do I like everything that he says? No, but I'm going to fight for his ability to say it. I also think it's important to note that sarcasm and humor and making jokes is a part of what he was saying. Is he really going to run around and slap women? No. Obviously, he's being sarcastic, he's being funny, he's being edgy. And I think that's important because we need people like that pushing the envelope so we can protect free speech.
But he was literally trying to sell a T-shirt which had imagery of his friend Diddy, his new friend apparently, because they fell out, his friend Diddy involved in a criminal act of abuse against a woman. Literally, that's what he was doing.
Well, even though this is egregious behavior, we all can agree to that. At the end of the day, that is a prime example of what is a marketing ploy. And again, this has been a successful marketing ploy because as a result of it, that particular item and those hoodies actually sold out. So he's winning with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's America.
Well, hang on one second. Just to be clear, though, Myron. Just to be clear, Myron, you think that was acceptable?
Again, capitalism is capitalism. Do I agree with it? Do I like it? Maybe not. However, I will support his ability to do it because he's obviously marketing things. He thinks maybe he has some dark humor that he wants to do where he thought that was funny. But the reality is that this is America and capitalism is a thing here.
So when Elon Musk, hang on one second. I'll come to all of you. So just to be clear, Myron, when Elon Musk replied yesterday to someone on X and said that he was now being censored for the legal pornography that he was posting, did you agree with that?
Well, I don't like pornography, but again, it is legal. There's a 3-part test in America with the Miller test to see if it suffices. And, you can make the argument that, it didn't cause any issues as far as...
So Elon was wrong to censor him?
With pornography?
Yes.
Well, again, I don't like porn. I don't think it should be on X at all, personally.
Okay, so you agree with censorship?
For pornography.
Right, but just to be clear, you agree with censorship?
No, I agree with pornography not being on X. I think it needs to be contained in a certain way.
But it's legal. It was legal what he was posting.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I don't have to like it or agree with it.
But what about his free speech rights to post it if he wants to? It's legal.
Well, that's a whole other thing. I think with X and pornography, there needs to be some kind of middle ground where, if it's going to be on X, there needs to be a way where it's not necessarily on the main feed, but that's a whole other discussion.
So you agree with censorship, don't you, Myron? I mean, for all your chat on Twitter to me yesterday, you actually agree with it.
So in actuality, Myron is actually making a tenable argument here. First of all, he says in both areas, when it comes to free speech and what people are allowed to say, I think people should be allowed to say it. And then his second response is, well, listen, I don't agree with porn, but I'm not saying that it shouldn't be legal. But when we talk about, for example, social media, Myron specifically says, and most people agree that free speech should be allowed on social media. Your ideas should be allowed. Your opinion should be allowed. It should be allowed. But when it comes to pornography, for example, pornography is not allowed on most social media platforms. It's not allowed on TikTok. It's not allowed on YouTube. It's not allowed on most areas of the internet. No social media platforms is allowed except Twitter, formerly now known as X. It's allowed on there. And there's a big question and a good debate about whether or not it should be banned because children are on there, kids are on there. We don't want pornography to be accessed to children. And Piers Morgan is being obviously a tool here. What he's saying is not logical at all. Just because something is legal, it doesn't mean that we should allow it in all corners. Pornography is for adults, it's not for children. And children use these platforms and it shouldn't be allowed. And that's what Myron is saying. And Piers Morgan doesn't even understand that. He's being a tool here. He has no idea what he's saying. He's absolutely positively wrong.
compare censorship of pornography to censorship on political speech or
so you think saying that you should treat Jews like slaves and whip them, or bitches deserve to be slapped, that is not, or try to sell a T-shirt of a domestic crime being committed, you think none of those things are worse than posting legal pornography?
The answer is no. Making comments about different religions or making controversial T-shirts or hoodies, these things are not worse than pornography. So let's take children, for example. Would you rather have people make opinions about religions or see pornography? Would you rather have children see controversial T-shirts or hoodies, or would you rather them see pornography? I would even say the comment about certain types of people not being exempt from some form of retaliation, for example, is not worse than someone seeing pornography. And the fact that Piers Morgan doesn't see the difference is actually alarming. He usually has decent comments, and this is not one of them, and he can't see the difference. Actuality in the comment box of Piers Morgan's show down below of this particular episode, you could actually see people agree 100% with this.
Yeah, I find it interesting that you're, harping on this, but there's people that monetize murder and death all the time in the hip hop industry. There's people that
I don't agree with that either.
Well, I'm sorry?
I don't agree with that either.
Exactly. You don't have to agree with it for it to happen or for it to be allowed.
No, I'm curious why you think only the pornography, which was legal, to be clear, should be censored. You didn't think any of the other stuff should be. What's the difference?
Pornography and political speech? Completely different.
No, pornography and saying that Jews should be whipped and treated as slaves.
Well, that's speech. I mean, if he wants to say that, you know what I mean? I don't have to agree with it, but I think if he wants to say that, he should be able to say that. I mean...
So again, consenting adults having sex and posting that is not acceptable, but treating Jews or saying Jews should be slaves and be whipped, that is acceptable for you?
Speech, you cannot conflate speech with pornography, Piers.
Why
I see
not?
what you're trying to do.
Why not?
They're not the same whatsoever.
Why aren't they the same thing?
No, they're not.
Why not?
No,
Explain why the difference.
Because in order to allow speech, and you need to allow all speeches so that people can come in and be able to have ideas, right? We need to
What's
get
wrong
into
with people having sex?
But if you're going to go ahead and say, oh yeah, let's go ahead and conflate that with pornography, well, there's nothing really to debate there or any real discourse that could be had with pornography of watching people have sex. It's not the same whatsoever, and to try to conflate the two is ridiculous.
One is legal, and the other one is actually illegal. To treat people like slaves and whip them would be illegal. Actually, legal pornography is legal.
No,
so you're in favor of censoring something that's legal, but you're not in favor of censoring something that's illegal. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, him saying that is actually protected under the First Amendment. Hate speech
actually,
is
it's
protected
not. That's the point. It's not. You don't even know. You don't know enough about your own First Amendment. I seem to know more than you. Although, just to be clear, I have a house in America. When I come to America, like anyone who comes to America, you are automatically protected by the First Amendment as well, right? So I know a lot about the First Amendment. First Amendment actually bans a lot of things, including incitement to violence, incitement to violent hatred.
See, and this is where Piers Morgan is wrong again. In America, hate speech is protected as free speech in America. All in most forms of speech, just about, is protected. The only forms of speech isn't protected is if you say, I'm going to hurt somebody, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to do harm to you. And that is not hate speech. That is direct incitement of violence. Yes, an incitement of violence and hate speech are not the same exact thing. Piers Morgan is wrong again. He's trying to virtue signal here, and he's not hitting it on cue.
Anyone that was looking at his tweets, right? Anyone that was looking at his tweets that has any level of common sense understands that it's dark humor, understands he's trolling, it's marketing. He doesn't really mean
nothing funny about it at all. No. Let me bring in Zuby. You've been watching very intently, Zuby. I mean, look, I think what we've just established with Myron, with respect to him, is that when you try and be a free speech absolutist, it gets very complicated very quickly. Because I can't for the life of me, and maybe you can articulate it better, but I can't for the life of me understand why Elon Musk, with his action yesterday, censors the legal pornography, and by the way, I agree with him. He should have done that, but that he doesn't censor any of the blatantly illegal things that that Kanye was spewing. Notably, the fact that you should treat Jews like slaves and whip them. That is actually a crime in America to encourage people to do that, to incite that level of. Well, hang on, Myron. I'm going to Zuby here. It seems to me that once you get into absolutism about this, it just gets complicated very fast.
Yeah, you're right. Look, it does get complicated. And the reality is that different people have different lines. Different nations have different lines. Every single country has different laws when it comes to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, even things that are graphic, visual things like pornography and so on. Some people will say that falls under freedom of speech. Some people will say that it doesn't. Going beyond that, though, this is all happening on a platform. And social media platforms have the right to set their boundaries where they want the boundaries to be. On Facebook and YouTube, for example, you absolutely cannot post pornography in any form. However, on X/Twitter, for whatever reason, throughout its entire history, they have allowed that. A lot of people oppose it, but for whatever reason, they let that go. So the truth is, ultimately, we can discuss the First Amendment, we can discuss laws in different countries, but I think in this particular case, the question is really about X and the X policies and what is enforced and what is not enforced and what crosses the line and what doesn't. I would absolutely say, look, I don't even think I saw every single thing that Kanye posted. I don't use X on Sundays, but from what I saw, the vast majority of the posts were certainly egregious, but they didn't cross a line outside of what is within the bounds of the First Amendment. When it gets to something like calling for violence, I think that's pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
So from what I saw, there were probably like 3 or 4 tweets.
Yeah.
Maybe two, somewhere between 2 to 4 tweets that crossed that line. So I'm not going to sit here and defend Kanye. I will defend the principle of free speech. Like Myron said, I don't think that pornography should be on X anyway. I think that's a whole separate conversation. So I think I can say that I think a lot of what he said was wrong, and I can be very critical of it. But the vast majority of it, I would not say is ban-worthy. However, there were a couple posts where he did cross the lines, and it's up to X how and when they enforce that.
So Piers Morgan here shows to have a fallacy in result to his ideology about the whole censorship topic. He did not like Myron's answer in the fact that Myron said, listen, I don't think any of this stuff should be banned. I'm not for corn with a P, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily think it should be banned off the internet. I just don't think it should be on social media platforms, my opinion, because of the fact that other types of people are on here, such as children, where free speech is nowhere near the same thing. Ideas that people have, opinions that people have, forms of expression on t-shirts that people have, those are things that should not be banned, and Zuby also agreed. Piers Morgan acted as if he agrees a little bit more with Zuby than he does Myron, but Zuby's opinion was no different than Myron's. Only difference was it was a little bit more nuance. Piers Morgan is completely slaughtered here. Hopefully you like that video. If you want to stick around for more videos, make sure you like and subscribe. See you in the next video.